Students of Reddit, what's your craziest substitute teacher story? Some friends and I have had one that we call motivational sub. He was a retired veteran who would spend the first 15 to 30 minutes of class giving everyone a motivational speech. We ended up learning important life lessons while simultaneously not getting anything done for the class. As a teacher, I had students report to me that a sub was giving them instructions on how to do a hand job with lotion. They were the most naive/adorable freshmen I ever had, and they were completely terrified. I wish I was kidding. Another sub years later was talking to them about how he wishes he could die under a tree smoking pot. We had a super old, super racist sub. Lady walked with a walker and could barely see the hand in front of her face, so how TF she was still subbing I'll never know, but whatever. She subbed my chemistry class in 7th grade once and told the only black kid in my class back in my day, your kind wouldn't be allowed here. Oh, it was bad. It became a huge thing because nearly the entire class lodged complaints and then the students' parents got involved. Being a kid at the time, I don't know what exactly was said or done, but I do know that she never subbed at our school again. Once had an old Russian woman as a substitute in middle school. She was nice, taught us how to count to 10 in Russian and stuff. One student asked what she was before she was a teacher, and she said she was a dancer. When asked if she could dance for us, she says, with a straight face, "You'll have to pay a lot of money to see that." Graduated high school student, we had a sub who literally wrote us up if we made any noise. Like a cough, sniffle, anything. The bitch even called down both teens just to make us quiet. Then she tried to say the quietest girl in our class actually spoke. Our teacher believes us because she knew we aren't disrespectful. This was back in high school. Fuck Ms. Renner. Palindrome ass bitch. We had this 70-something-year-old man who used to be in the military that would substitute for my high school. And every time he substituted, he would challenge one of the guys in the class to a push-up competition, usually a football player, and he almost always won. We were in Sistos, which was weightlifting class in high school, and we had a substitute. Short, super muscular dude. Just seemed like a douchebag in every way. Well, we had a kid in our class who was going D1 in football. Extremely strong for a 17-year-old. Pretty certain he was in fact on steroids. Anyways, he gets down on the bench and hits 225 for like 12. Pretty impressive. This fucking substitute teacher sees this, walks over to the bench next to his, loads up like 315, and proceeds to rep it for like 9. He then racks it, looks at the kid, looks at the rest of us all watching, and goes the fucks up. Lol, that was so surreal. Some 40-year-old meathead felt like he needed to show up a 17-year-old in front of a bunch of other kids. She slapped a kid twice while he was having a panic attack. Apparently she was trying to slap him out of it. We had quite a few unstable substitutes in middle school. This is the only one that wasn't allowed back at the school, and that was just because the kids' parents were like the only rich people in the city and paid for a lot of the school's things. We once had a sub that knew how to write Arabic and would frequently write it on the board because kids were interested. One day he wrote a bunch of Arabic stuff on the board and said that if the students wanted to try to write it on paper they could. Well, the principal walked in and saw Arabic all over the front board and multiple kids writing in Arabic in their notebook. It was awkward. Probably isn't the craziest story, and that teacher was really cool. It was just awkward. Our freshman year bio teacher was out for a month and we got a sub teacher who was just out of college. He was really inexperienced and awkward for a teacher. He printed letters to hand to each of us and our parents on the first day, and in it literally says that his hobby is video games. One time I and several other classmates went to ask him a question about cell walls, and he accidentally did the pointer finger inside whole hand gesture while trying to explain me how things travel through cells. It was very awkward. He was blushing so hard while we all held back our laughter. That poor teacher, lol. Sometimes I wonder if that moment still haunts him every night. My grandma was my substitute teacher once. I've had lots, most of which happened years ago, but I'll share the one that irritates me the most. In middle school, we had an older lady, maybe 60-70, subbing for our math class who had put on a movie for us to watch. During the movie, we were allowed to work on some extra class work we had. I was eating some sun chips and got up to throw away the bag, then went back to my seat. Keep in mind, the sub was standing next to the trash can, so I had to walk in front of her in order to throw away the bag. When I walked back to my chair, I sat down and started to work again, and then I feel this woman standing behind me. She followed me to my seat, demanding to know where I've been. Confused, I told her I was in the class. Then, she starts yelling at me, insisting I was skipping the class. At this point, the whole class was staring at her. This went on for some time until someone finally decided to tell her I was there the whole time. She didn't apologize or anything, she only scowled and walked away. I had a girlfriend who had recently died by getting run over by a car in front of me. The substitute knew that happened, and when I was wiping my eyes with my sleeve he looked me in the eyes and said, "Why do you care? She is flat now." Literally, that mofo got fired. Last school year, there was a sub that would be the primary substitute for my social studies class. She was just like our social studies teacher, funny and laid back. One of the days she was subbing, we were supposed to do a game for social studies about buying and selling because it was our economics unit or whatever. We were originally supposed to use books that were in the classroom, but she had a different idea. She had a bag of candy, and not one of those a few pieces that she would give to good students. No, it was more of a bag of Halloween candy. So we used that, and got to keep how many pieces we had left. It was a candy fest for a few days after. Not a student but was a substitute teacher for a year, unexpectedly, long-term sub position, hired the week school started. Some tough kids and I was totally in over my head but worked hard. I was keeping my shit together and my classes engaged. Things were looking up come spring. Then in April I got called for jury duty. I begged the judge to let me off, but he didn't. So a sub comes in for me, the sub. When I got back to school the next week, one of my trouble kids was nowhere to be found. Come to find out, he had assaulted the sub. Literally just slapped him across the face. Kid got arrested. I was never able to find out what happened beyond that, although the kid did come back a week later. We had to read a story as a class and we were goofing off like crazy. Another teacher came in at one point and made monkey noises. The teacher was just so calm and kept moving things along. She was probably in her 70s. Had a sub who turned on Sound of Music for us. She'd brought it. Everyone loved her and the guy who made student body president had her in his skit. It was legendary. We had this one great sub in 7th grade who roasted the hell out of some of the students and even one of our other teachers. Had a sub suggest I do a reading out loud drunk, because the character I was reading for was drunk in scene. He backtracked instantly when he remembered he was talking to a high school student, not college. Old guy, really nice, but strict. One day we had him in 5th grade and at recess one of my friends went over and asked him if he could turn some music on. About 2 minutes later my friend is explaining to the guy what to look up on YouTube and the 80-something-year-old dude is wondering what dubstep is. Couple minutes later this guy is blasting Skrillex on his phone and my friend some other kids are dancing. Anytime he subbed for the rest of the year recess was a dance party and every time he looked like he really enjoyed it. Also his name was Mr. T. In 6th grade we had a gold star party which was a reward for an accumulated number of stars received for good behavior. We all voted on watching the first Harry Potter movie with popcorn and eagerly awaited for Friday to arrive. It did, and the substitute refused to play it because it was against her religion. She threw a fit, so the principal sat in the classroom with us and played the movie while she cried in the back, eventually leaving for the rest of the day. My usual teachers knew I would just sleep in class all week, then ace the test and pass the course. But the sub threatened to have me drug tested. It worked. In high school we had a sub who looked like he was high and asked students for their breakfast because he was hungry, then showed us all the apples he had in his pocket. Not much of a story, but we found the sub's Twitter account and saw that he got into an argument with the official account of the Izz-ad-Din al-Qassam Brigades, the military wing of Hamas. Looks like the terrorist account was shut down in 2016 though. I had a substitute teacher who'd arbed and flossed, and he was like 80. My friend had a substitute teacher who threw a pen at a disabled kid. I was doing my high school co-op working in a primary school helping with gifted kids. A sub came in one day and screamed at a Jehovah's Witness kid because he wasn't standing for the national anthem. He's not allowed to do that, per his religion. When the kid told her that, she made him go stand outside for being disrespectful. Easiest report I ever made. One told us not to sext in class randomly, one who walked in circles the whole class because he said his wife wanted him to get his steps in on his Fitbit, one old lady that rapped for us, another was a motivational speaker. She didn't know the material, so she FaceTimed the teacher who basically taught us there. I've had this sub a couple times throughout high school, but this guy wouldn't talk, wouldn't engage with students. Basically class would start, he would probably only say hello, and what we are supposed to do, and then he would go quiet watching his tablet. 6th grade math guy, probably in his 70s, fell asleep sitting at the teacher's desk. We would all start yelling, being obnoxious children and all, he'd wake up, and we'd do our work. Fell right back to sleep, we all yelled again. Probably did this 6 to 8 times before class ended. Mr. F was a retired teacher and just didn't care anymore. What will they do, fire me? He was the chillest dude and pretty much anything went in his class. One time he caught a kid on their cell phone, they are banned in school, and he said, and I quote, "You have two options, I confiscate your phone and write you a detention, or I whack you over the head with rolled up papers." The kid got whacked in the head with the paper roll. Good times.